I'm pre-wetting the paper. This is a hot pressed. And I'm starting with the ultramarine gradient from the top, working my way to the bottom. You can see these white speckles on my paper, and that's because I have been splattering that masking fluid before pre-wetting my paper. I've also masked some of the branches. You can skip this step and just add gouache at the end. Some people prefer to do that because it's easier to apply and you don't have to wait, so you can do that, but I prefer to have the white of the paper. Now once the paper is still wet, I will add a combination of that ultramarine with permanent carmine, or you can just use any purple you have. That should do it. These trees are not going to be very dark since they are a little bit further, so I'm adding a relatively dark value, but not the darkest one in my whole painting, if that makes sense. I'm using a flat brush here with my ultramarine blue, and I'm going towards the cabin. I'm trying to create this composition that draws your eye towards the cabin. With my silver brush, I'm applying a little bit of that lemon yellow. It's combined with some burnt sienna because I'm trying to have a very warm yellow. If you have a warmer yellow in your palette, that would be great. If not, I like to combine these two. You'll see that I'm adding slightly more burnt sienna as I go towards the edges of that light projection. I'm also adding that on the cabin, and that will show me where the light sconce is going to be on that exterior wall, and it's going to wash very smooth my cabin. Now I'm adding some details in the background, just a darker value of that ultramarine blue, and moving on out to create those trees in the background. I'm using my 2 liner. I feel like liners go the best with this kind of work. Just make sure when you create the branches, I like to break it up and not do a straight line, because this will make it look more realistic and also create that illusion of the branch being actually blocked by the snow. So that is in line with our scene here. I'm trying to vary also the value of the branches. The branches are going to be further away. They're going to be slightly lighter in the value. Now with my silver brush, it's almost dry. I'm just taking some pigment and I'm dabbing very slowly to create the illusion of some foliage here and there. You can completely skip this step if you'd like. I just prefer to frame the light even more, and the more darkness we're going to have around the light, the more that light is going to pop out. Now I'm adding some more trees, and these are going to be maybe pines or anything that is green during the winter. But I'm going to be using my burnt sienna and my sepia for that. Now when I'm creating the cabin, I'm framing that window with burnt sienna. Everything else is going to stay the same. We're supposed to keep those light areas where the light is shining very light. We're not going to add too much color there. I'm also creating that pattern on the exterior of the house to have more texture using sepia. The right side of the house, it's gonna have more sepia. It's more in the shade. And while it's still wet, can add more this combination of the sepia with the burnt sienna to make it look more flowy. Here, it's your decision on how tight or loose you're gonna work. You'll see that some lines are white, almost white, and those are masked with the masking fluid. That is because I want to show where the snow is setting. It will set on that door and in front of the window. So we're going to have some lines there. Now I'm trying to frame the top of the roof, and for that I'm using the sepia combined with Payne's gray. It can be even that very dark purple. It doesn't really matter as long as the value is correct. Now for that small window, I'm adding the burnt sienna lines to frame it. And that's it. That's supposed to be a very quick and dry work. Now I'm creating the horn with that sepia, and I can use the same color or just dark ultramarine blue for the shadows inside the steps. Those are going to go towards the house, and the ones that are closer to us, they're going to be bigger, and the ones that go towards the house, they're going to be almost dots. Now taking masking fluid off, this is the final result. Now moving on to the next card. This is going to be a cabin scene from up the hill somewhere. And we're going to be focusing on that beautiful sky in the same. You can download the sketch for this one in the description below and just splatter with some masking fluid like I did for the top where the stars are going to be. Or you can just splatter some gouache at the end. I'm using a number 10 brush here, natural hairs. It doesn't matter too much. It has to be a soft brush though. And I'm adding that ultramarine in the middle, leaving some of the white as I go towards that purple clouds. So this sky is gonna be at dawn. We're still gonna see the sun right where it touches those mountains. So we're gonna have some yellow there and some touches of the permanent carmine. The key for the sky is to work on it and do as little brush strokes as possible, and then let it dry. Don't touch it too much. The more you're gonna work on it, the more chances for it to show the brush strokes you're gonna have. I have used for this one hot pressed paper, but you can do cold pressed as well. Because my cabin is so small, I prefer to have a lot of details clear for the cabin and just work faster. It is a little bit more difficult to work with hot pressed paper, but I chose it for this one. Now you'll see for the snow, I'm using the Payne's gray with ultramarine blue. And I'm spreading it very delicately on that snow. I'm only gonna use here the burnt sienna, again showing the warmest areas around that light. The light is gonna come from the windows. So the windows are going to be the yellow lemon, and around the window we're going to have this burnt sienna. As I go further away from the light source, I can add more sepia. That color is going to be projected on the snow as well. So I'm just putting some lines on the snow. Very soft. The work on the cabin is tight. The work on the snow is very loose. And that is because of the density of the snow, which is higher than the air. So everything is going to look smoother. It's going to have more roughness, I would say. So you'll see those shadows I have now in the snow. I was smoothing the edges with some wet brush. That's what I'm doing right now too. So we're going to create those window projections in the snow, and you can make the snow darker if you'd like for this effect to be even more impactful. Here you'll see me adding more or less yellow lemon and burnt sienna depending on just the contrast of the value it makes with the cabin. The cabin has little lines that are very dark and just a dark value of sepia here and there just to make it look crisp and smooth. And then now I'm adding some background around the cabin, which are going to be these trees. I'm using purely Payne's Gray for that with water. I'm making these trees pretty crisp, more like in focus. Your decision might be different. You might want to make them a little bit more loose. That is up to you. Also, I'm adding the shadows on the hills, on those mountains there. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed creating this card and adding some details here and there. It is a pretty smooth work. And once everything is completely dry, then I can rub those stars and just take the masking fluid off. This is the final result. I very much liked how those stars look very crisp. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.